Hey guys, we're about to tackle another large project. This will actually be a first for me. I built plenty of doors in the past, but I never had so many to build, and I actually never built interior doors. We're about to tackle 10 interior doors for an older house in the Ghent area. So I have a bunch of ash here. The client wanted the doors to be significantly heavier than like building a poplar door or like hollow core doors that you can get from the store. He didn't want to go with like the solid core ones because again they're still just a veneer that if you didn't scratch or whatever else they'll fall apart. And he also wanted them stained. He has some walnut doors on the front and back of the house, so he wanted something that would be standable. So we went with ash because it's plenty hard and it'll give him the finish that he wants. We have 4/4 material here for all the panels, and we have 8/4 for all the actual doors. I'm debating if I'm going to resalt any of this, strictly because interior doors are about 1 3/8, and we have 8/4 material. It's essentially a 1/2 inch of material that's going to be turned into sawdust. We'll see if I end up doing all the resawing. Probably won't. I'm going to make a lot of sawdust. I'm going to show you guys my general, I have a notepad with a bunch of scribbles. I took all my scribbles and laid it out to a detailed cut list that's back here on the door. So I'm going to show you guys that, and then we're going to delve into the cutting process. And what I'm going to do for most of this, because again, this is really large pieces, most of it, like for all the stiles and rails, they're about 20, 30 inches. So I'm actually going to break down everything I need for stiles and rails over on the miter saw. The stiles are 80. Most of these doors are actually about 78 because it's an older house. But we're going to aim for 80 inches on the finish. I might actually trim some of these a little bit shorter. But the stiles are going to be about 80 inches finished. We're going to cut them to rough 84, so I'm not jointing and planing full length boards, just to make it a little bit easier on myself. The rails, again, them being shorter, I'm going to batch them down to maybe like enough to where I can get like 2 rails out of each piece, just so I'm not jointing and planing again really long boards. But the first step, I'm going to show you guys this cut list, and then we're going to head over to the miter saw to break stuff down. Back here at the cut list, we have everything pretty much broken down to what I need. I actually color coded it just so I can keep track of everything else. The stiles of the green, they're going to be 4 3/4. Well, everything is going to be 4 3/4 wide except for the bottom rail. That one's going to be 9 1/4. So I have some wider material there. I'm going to cut up all my bottom rails out of. But everything else is roughly 2x6 material. Some of them are about 7. So we're going to actually cut all those. And then we're going to, so we need 20 stiles at 80 inches. So I'll cut all those to length. And then I need a total of 30 of them. Well, again, they're broken down as 10 doors. These are going to be 5-panel doors. So some of them are various widths. I'm going to need 35 at 26, 10 at 25, and 5 at 16 rough cut. But then I have the final dimensions, including the extra material that needs to be added for the cope and stick joinery. So I have everything I need laid out. The next step is to start with my rough dimensions here. So 84, 26, 25, 16. I'm going to cut everything to rough dimensions, and then we're going to go into the jointing and milling process. That's the game plan. So let's head over to the miter saw. All right, so the next steps for us is pretty much my standard milling process. But in this case, I have a complete cut list, so I know all my rough dimensions. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually set up several stop blocks and go over to my miter saw and cut everything to exactly what I need. And then I'm going to head over to the table saw to rip them to fit on my jointer. I have a rigid 6-inch jointer. The max capacity is 6 1/8. So I typically take the material down to probably about 5 7/8, just in case the board has a large cup or bow in it. I just want to make sure that the jointer can do it in a single pass. It's really annoying when you try to pass it over and you realize there's still like a 16th or 1/8 inch lip that the jointer didn't quite get. So, working with the capacity of the tools that I have. But after we joint the faces and the edges, we're going to go over to the planer to get the rest of it milled down. Then we're going to head back to the table saw to rip everything to this final dimensions, which is 4 3/4 wide. And then we have one final trip back to the miter saw with a proper stop block set up. Again, since we're aiming for several dimensions, we have all the cut lists laid out on my door. We're going to go ahead and head over there and batch out all of my pieces to the final lengths. Again, the stop blocks make it really efficient for me to batch out all these pieces. It's pretty easy to set up a stop block at 35 inches and then cut 40 pieces to the same dimensions. That's the one benefit of making all these doors. Typically, if you're making 1 or 2, you kind of can't really come up with a fair price for it. But because I'm making 10, I'm able to come up with a pretty fair price because I'm pretty much batching out the entire process. And since most of the doors are roughly the same size, it's not really too much of an issue. I can kind of cut all the pieces to the same, make them all maybe like, 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch oversized so they can get trimmed to the actual door when we get to the location. So after all the milling and sizing is done, the next thing we're going to delve into is the router table. So I'm going to see you guys once we get over there. Hey guys, now we're heading over to the router table. And this portion of the build is probably the most crucial and the most tedious part. But again, because of the new router lift that I installed inside of my table saw, including the fence that I built, I'm able to use feather boards and various other accessories to make this a lot easier. But there's a couple things you want to keep in mind as you're going through a routing process like this. One, you want to have the proper bits. In this case, because I'm doing interior doors, Freud has a router bit set for the stiles and rails, and it also has a raised panel bit, but in this case we're doing craftsman style 6 panel doors, so we don't need the raised panel bit. But to make these make these bits work for 1 3/8 doors instead of the standard 1 3/4, you can actually remove, I believe it's one of the bearings or it's one of the spacers that come on this bit. Pretty much you need to adjust it to make sure that it cuts for the proper thickness of the material that you're using. And once you have both of your bits, being your cope and your stick bit, dialed in, the first thing you want to do is route all of your end grain. Strictly because end grain is more likely to tear out as you cut through it. So by doing the end grain and then doing the edge grain, you're able to clean up the end grain tear out by using the edge grain bit last. Secondly, another good tip that you can use is use a sacrificial piece or a feed piece as you come behind. Pretty much as you feed your workpiece through the router bit, have a sacrificial board that is the same thickness right behind it. One, it helps keep it square to your fence. Two, as the bit exits your workpiece, it'll go into your sacrificial piece, eliminating most of the tear out. So all this is try to avoid tear out. The third thing that's really important in this case is to use test pieces. You want to dial in your your bit height, your fence settings, everything else on sacrificial pieces. You spend this long actually getting your material milled to the proper thickness, cut to the right length, and everything else. You don't want to end up having to, remake a piece. So use lots of test pieces as you go throughout this process. And the fourth most important thing I can say is dust collection and also your speeds and feed. Because you're spinning such a large bit, you don't want your router spinning as fast. So definitely dial it down. Luckily for the skill router bit, it actually has a speed setting. You kind of set your bit, set the thickness of material you're using, the density, whether you're using hardwood or softwood, etc. And the router would give you a speed setting. But if you have like a 6 dial speed setting on your router, I would recommend probably going for like a, maybe 2. Try 2 and see if your wood is bouncing or you're getting a lot of chatter, go a little slower. If it's running fine, maybe you can kick up the speed just a little bit. But you want to get that dialed in. Again, this is the importance of test pieces. But yeah, so I'm going to let the rest of this routing stuff go. Oh, this is everything that you need to know for cutting the end grain. Once you get to doing your actual copes or doing all of your edge grain, because this is a 6 panel door, a couple things I want to keep in mind is 2 of the rails will not get the profile routed on both sides. That'd be the bottom rail, the wider one, and then the very top rail. I only need the profile routed on one side. So to keep that, system kind of going for me, to make sure I don't make any mistakes, what I'm doing is running all my rest of all 4 of my rails double sided, and then leaving my larger bottom rail and my top rail separate, so that way I know I need to only do one pass. So that way I can kind of get my body in the motion of doing so. So I kind of have all my doors stacked up on my workbench, and I'm going through the parts as I kind of need them. That way I'm also not getting losing track of what I'm doing, or let muscle memory kind of mess me up. So come up with a system to make it easier for yourself. And then the last thing I can say that was really awesome about the router table that I added was the push button stop right there in front, so I can actually stop the router bit with my hip. Pretty much whenever I'm getting about to the end of the cut, I can just hit the button and I know the bit's going to stop, so I'm not worried about the piece working up or anything else. And lastly, I can say is feather boards. You definitely want to be able to have some type of feather boards and outfeed, especially for the longer pieces, being all my styles. So set up some feather boards, set up whatever you need to help support your material, because you want to be able to keep it nice and flat as you go through and feed it through your bits. Any type of movement, lifting up, or anything else would kind of ruin your profile. So take your time, and I'm pretty sure you guys will get exactly the results that you're looking for. I'll catch back up to you guys after all this routing. I kind of just spread it up in the background. Hopefully it's enough or slow enough for you guys to kind of get the gist of everything we're doing. And if you have any questions, definitely let me know down below in the comments. All right, so with the most tedious part of this build kind of out of the way, we have all the stiles and rails for the doors done. The next thing I want to do is just do a test fit. Just kind of see how the joints come together, kind of get a glimpse of what this 6-panel door is going to look like. But we're still missing probably the most important ingredient of a 6-panel door, and that is all of the panels. Essentially, we milled up all the 8-quarter material and made up all the stiles and rails, did all the routing. The next thing we need to do is actually go into making up and gluing up all the actual panels for the door itself. And I'm going to be using some 4-quarter material. And my methodology for doing so, what I'm thinking I'm going to do, since most of the panels are probably about 10 to 11 inches, I'm going to actually do it in a 2-board glue up. But I want to use a spline to kind of help align everything, for 2 reasons. One, the spline will help keep things aligned. I could use biscuits, but the spline serves a secondary purpose. I love to do this for exterior doors strictly because when you add a spline into a panel, if the panel ever separates because, let's say, the outside is getting beat on by the sun or whatever the case may be, if the joint ever separates, instead of being able to see through your panel, you'll see more ash. So I'm going to be using some ash splines in this glue up, so that way it kind of, 1, helps keeps everything in line, but 2, it serves that secondary purpose of backing up the glue joint if it ever fails. And the first thing to do so is I'm going to use a lot of these leftover strips laying around my shop. I'm going to mill them down to a consistent thickness. Then I'm going to take all of my panel material, get that milled up. I don't need to show that again. We're going to get all that milled up to make it nice and square. Then we're going to run a bunch of dados that are going to match the splines that we have cut into the side panels, and the dado is going to be ran on the table saw. I think I can do it with like 2 passes with a single curved blade. So we're going to get that set up, and then once all the dados are cut, we're going to glue them all together with the splines, run them through the planer, and then we're going to actually do our first official test fit with everything all together. So I'll see you guys in probably about maybe like 5-10 minutes of video magic, and we'll be ready to start gluing up some of these doors. All right, so the last step in this door build process is the actual glue up. And in this case, I have 10 doors to glue up. I'm going to show you guys 2 of them. The first door I was using a different glue up method. I was actually brushing the glue on the end of all the rails. I later actually switched it up to actually dip the rails directly into my glue tray, brush off any of the excess, and then I'm going to be giving these doors a complete sanding, and I'm also going to wipe it down with the rag to make sure there's no excess glue on the actual doors before the glue sets up. So I'm not too worried about getting a little bit of glue on the rails, especially if it makes the glue ups a little bit faster. I end up getting these glue ups down to about like 8 to 9 minutes per door, making sure they're square and everything else. And how I like to do my doors, also, if you guys hadn't noticed, I like to turn them up on their sides. It makes it really easy to drop in the rails, the panels, and if you're doing full tenons, it's a lot easier to align everything. But in this case, I'm just make sure my joinery is nice and square and flush. And then when I close everything up, I can kind of check my diagonals, beat it around with the block if I need to. But also, everything is oversized. My top rail, instead of being 4 3/4, is 5 inches. So I'm able to trim that off. And the bottom rail, instead of being the standard 9 1/4 I was aiming for, I made that 9 1/2. So I can always trim the door to make it perfectly square. In the next video, when we delve into the actual install of all the doors, how we trim them to fit, We're gonna delve into doing we're doing mortise locks because this is an older house in the Ghent area. So we're gonna be doing old school mortise locks. I'm gonna show you guys how I route those out, how I make the templates and everything. All that's coming up in the next video. So hopefully you guys are excited for that. And if you are, stick around, smash that like button, leave me a comment and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.